everybody. Welcome to today's WR daily broadcast. We have the Smackdown preview. We got some Impact No Surrender. We got exciting developments, and due to unforeseen circumstances, this is tonight's team. So we have myself, head of reviewing, Kobe Yanzowski, and we have the head of opinions, or the honesty opinion. I call it the honesty crew. We have Mr. Anthony Ricciardi.
Yeah.
How are you doing tonight there, boss man?
I'm doing all right. It's Friday, February 24th. I think this is the first time it's just me and Kobe on this. No Clark or Ben supervising, so this can either be really good or a complete train wreck. Let's find out which.
Let's find out which. That's the thing. Let's find out which one. This is the first ever two-man. This is the first show without Ben or Clark, at least one of them appearing. We have our own Zoom meetings between myself and Anthony. We've talked. This isn't unforeseen circumstance between us because we know and we have the charisma and we can talk about situations. But I think we got to kick it off with some SmackDown thoughts. We're an hour away. We got the Bloodline. What's next for the Bloodline? How do you see Roman Reigns coming into SmackDown if he even shows up?
I mean, that's the thing. I kind of feel like I don't necessarily think Roman's going to show up tonight. I think the question is, we know he's limited. How limited, we don't know. I think it's mainly going to be the Usos and Sammy carrying the continuation of that story with Paul. Paul will probably be there. So I don't know when the next time we see Roman is between now and WrestleMania. I would assume he'd be on the remaining SmackDowns to Mania, as that is the next big event. But I don't know. There's no guarantee on that. But I would assume the continuation of the Sammy story will probably continue, would be my guess. Probably some confrontation with Jay. They didn't mean to spear him or whatever the story. I would assume there would be a continuation of that, would be my guess.
And that's definitely a point to think about, is like, we don't know Roman's later schedule with him taking on that new contract. Lighter dates, minimal live events. He's barely showed up on a lot of SmackDowns since WrestleMania, and that entirely has put the question of, was this the right choice to put both world titles, to have your flagship top draw in a position to where he's not showing up on at least a consistent basis, however you want to describe that. I think a question is do we see Paul Heyman in the neck brace, because he likes to sell those things? He sold it on Raw. I have a feeling we do, but I think there was a reason before Elimination Chamber that I was like, I do think we're still going to see Jey Uso not officially in the Bloodline, and I was never officially sold on Jey Uso is going to cost Sami Zayn the belt. I understood he probably would show up if he was booked to, but at the end of the day, I think this continues to evolve, this storyline, because we've seen the Bloodline as, well, this is the Roman Reigns story. Well, now this is very much the Roman Reigns story, the Jey Uso story, the Sami Zayn story, however you want to build it as. It's a very intricate and almost spiderweb-like storyline that we have.
I mean, that's one of the things that I know I sound like a broken record every time I bring this up, but the Bloodline story has always been one of those stories. It's a compelling story, and you think you know where it's going, and it always makes a turn, and it's not a bad turn either. It's a really well thought out turn that you like, oh, I didn't think that was coming. I think a lot of us thought, I know you didn't, Kobe, but most of us thought that, the Jay turn was going to happen at Chamber, because presumably it's being set up for the Usos against Sammy and KO. That's what we're all of the belief of where it's going. So that's why we kind of thought, okay, this will be the shot. This will cause this. But then they took the turn. Jay sort of teased it, didn't do it, got a spear by Sammy. And when KO came back, it was not kumbaya. It was, I have a problem with them. You happen to be there. We're not good. Like, we still have issues. I am done with you. You wouldn't listen to me when I told you they were using you. Now, all of a sudden, you want to be best friends again. We ain't doing that. And I think that's the smart play. You could drag that out. And I don't necessarily think it would have been genuine if KO would have came out of the chamber, took out Bloodline, and just hugged Sammy like nothing happened. Because Sammy did not step up right away when KO was literally handcuffed to the ropes and getting completely destroyed by the Bloodline. Also, the War Games match. KO lost that match because of Sammy. So I mean, there's a lot of bad blood. They have history of bad blood. Probably one of the best rivalries in the history of the business. It's been in PWG, Ring of Honor, NXT, main roster WWE, and probably other independent promotions as well. I mean, they have a history. Real life, they're like brothers. We know that. But storyline wise, TV wise, they have an on again, off again relationship. But they haven't held tag team gold together since Ring of Honor. And I believe that was 2008 or 2009 was the last time they held tag team gold together in Ring of Honor, but they have never held tag team gold. And winning the tag titles would give KO a Grand Slam, which he does not have. And I believe that would get Sammy one step closer to a Triple Crown at that point. I think he would just need a world title at that point, which I think he's going to end up getting at some point in 23, assuming he's able to keep the momentum that he has and the popularity. That would be my thought. But what do you think, Joe?
I like that's the thing is I think you brought up a very good point. Is we had what wouldn't have been genuine if Kevin Owens was there for Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn was one to not trust him entirely. Sami Zayn, at the end of the day, wasn't saving Kevin Owens at the Royal Rumble. He was sticking up and trying to say, Roman, you're better than this. You don't have to end his career. Yes, you can kind of say he attempted to protect Kevin Owens, but this was more of a him versus Roman thing. And then it turned into, well, where is Jey Uso's alliance lie? I genuinely think that is the direction they are going, is the tag match, Sammy, Kevin, and then Jay and Jimmy. Mm-hmm. But I really like that they're drawing out both ways. We have the Kevin and Sammy who are like, well, are they at odds or are they going to be friends? Now they have they're at the same point where yeah, we want to take out the bloodline regardless. Kevin is still, I don't want to do it with you. And then we have Jey Uso, who's like, well, Jimmy Uso's my blood, but as a part of the bloodline, I don't know anything yet.
I mean, I think that's really a smart, that's another one of those smart things that was done. The Jey storyline, which no one saw coming. Everyone kind of saw, okay, KO and Sammy and Roman, that was going to blow up. I don't think anybody saw Jey questioning the bloodline. But it makes sense because he's the first one to quote unquote join what will become the bloodline after kind of being forced to bend the knee to Roman after their feud. So it does make sense that domino would fall at some point, that Jey would be the questioning one. But again, no, I don't think anyone really saw that coming, because I didn't see any reports of anybody speculating, and I certainly didn't speculate, oh, Jay's also going to be a question mark. I don't think anybody really saw that. But again, that's one of those things that it made sense. In a lot of ways, I think this bloodline, the way it's been built, reminds me a lot of the TV show Breaking Bad, in the sense that it was such quality storytelling. And you would think, oh, this is going to happen. Then that's not the way they went. They went somewhere else. And it actually is better. So that's, for me, the bloodline is a lot like that. in that it's compelling and it leaves you guessing. Will they always hit home runs? Probably not. But realistically, they've gotten a hit every time at the bat. So I think, I'm excited to see where this goes. I do think this ultimately will blow up at WrestleMania. I think this is the end. If it's not at WrestleMania, it's the post Smackdown from Mania or the post Night Raw. Like, I do think the bloodline of Roman at least leading them will end at Mania, because I do think Roman does take significant time off after Mania. That's just my speculating. I don't know that for certain, but that's kind of where I think it goes.
See, that's the thing. And I'm going to continue to sound like a broken record just to kind of finish this off. I was the whole belief of well, where is it next? If Roman Reigns is off the top of the mountain, the bloodline or the island of relevancy is going to crumble. And I think that was the point of this whole Jey Uso, is he in or out, is what's going to allow this story to continue past WrestleMania. Is the future going to be a Roman Jey Uso match again? Is Roman going to continue to elevate that, or are we going to see Solo Sikoa being the one to be a more dominant person out of the three of them? And I think there's a lot of ways we can approach this. I do agree that I think Roman Reigns is out of the position of, he's not going to be around a lot at post WrestleMania. But if this is assuming he wins or he loses, this is assuming Cody wins.
Yeah, I've kind of gone on record. I believe the torch is being passed at Mania. I think another factor, and again, he hasn't signed with WWE, but obviously it's been floated, that, Tama Tonga may be coming in at some point. At least he has tweeted that, they're knocking at his door. Would they have him come in and become the new, mafia boss of the bloodline? Or would it be Jay and Tama's, part of his guns with the new bloodline, the Wolfpack bloodline, whatever you want to call it, the new group. I think I referred to. I wouldn't mind seeing if after Roman loses, if the bloodline goes all hyena is jumping on Scar in Lion King and turning on him. I could see that happening. I think that would be a smart play, because that would at least give the other members of a bloodline a story that they can kind of continue even without Roman there. And I could totally see them going on a promo, the next show, whatever. We carried the bloodline. Roman may have claimed to sat at that table, but we're the ones that put that table together. Like, I could see them saying things like that.
That's a phenomenal line.
I'm glad you liked it.
That's a phenomenal line, and I like that idea, and I almost want to picture it as I remember this is where my youth comes into play. The first year I watched wrestling was when it was the AAA, the Summer of Punk era, and they had that locker room walkout on Triple H. And then it was Punk on commentary. It was a Cena Sheamus match, and it was a very weird angle. But I feel like that's kind of the way he has to do it. Is if Roman shows up on the SmackDown, I'd even say on the Raw, but he has to say you're either going to help me rebuild this island, or you're out. And that's when the bloodline walk out. Roman Reigns sits there, he stares, he thinks, and I think that'd be almost a tremendous visual. But I mean, that's kind of enough about the bloodline.
Yeah.
There's one more kind of aspect I want to talk about SmackDown, and it's Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair are scheduled to go face to face, and I was a firm believer that was almost a more money match, and I remember that they had the WrestleMania match, and in the PC it was solid. It had no fans. Of course, it would have been better with fans. They had the match at Money in the Bank, the very first crowd. The second time the second pay-per-view crowd back because WrestleMania did, and then they were still in the Thunderdome era. But they had that, and I just remember, and it was they had the crowd in the palm of their hands because they were so we want Becky, and they were able to turn that crowd around and take control. And I believe that is not just a Charlotte Flair thing. I think that's can attest to the talent of Rhea Ripley as well. And I think this is the better match than a potential Rhea Bianca match. I'm more excited to see Rhea get that big moment on a big stage. What are you expecting from the face-to-face happen?
See, here's the thing that I like the idea of the Charlotte Ripley rematch from the COVID Mania, which I actually have one of those WrestleMania chairs because they were selling them because obviously they couldn't use them. So I do have one. I do have that chair. It's in my media room. But the thing with Rhea is that she's so wrapped up in the Judgment Day group with Dom, it almost feels weird, like as being a legitimate competitor, because for months she's been, the China role of the bloodline. And her and Dom are very much China and Eddie Guerrero, like 2.0. So I'm looking forward to the match, but I would hope that, assuming Rhea wins this thing, which I think would be the smart move in front of the fans, I think that would be a great visual. I would hope that would be the break off for Rhea to pursue the singles career again and not just be the hanger, not just be a part of the Judgment Day, which I'm kind of hoping that group kiboshes come Mania. I really do, because I just don't think the group it has gotten better, but not enough for me to go, this needs to stay. This needs to stay. This group can't break up. This isn't the Shield. This isn't even the Bloodline where you want to see it continue. You're kind of like, okay, you people need to do your thing. So I am looking forward to it. I'm sure it'll be a lot of back and forth. I'm sure Charlotte will take a shot at Dom. Rhea will probably take a shot at Rick. There'll be a little this, a little that. That's kind of where I think it goes. So I am curious to see, what comes of it. I mean, if it's, are they billing it just as a face-to-face, or is it a contract signing? Like, did they say exactly what it's supposed to be?
It is come face-to-face on the website. And I think that, it's interesting. I don't know if they do the contract signing. It's very much of just a plug and play. Oh, we want to do a contract signing and go with this rivalry. Okay, we do.
Yeah.
I think you can argue against that, but that's not that's not the time and place we're supposed to talk about here. I 100% agree with the statement that Judgment Day kind of need to figure out what they want to do with the Judgment Day, and I think that was almost the main criticism that I think Clark had at the time of the Rumble. Is like, well, Rhea wasn't being built as a threat until she legitimately won from number one.
That was the problem.
History. And I do agree with that to an extent. At the end of the day, I don't know who else you could have went unless you went with the whole story of, well, Liv Morgan said she was going to come back and be real when she lost to Charlotte Flair in 2019. Like, you can do that, and I think I don't think that's the move, but if they do have Charlotte go over, that could be the next rivalry is something Liv related with Charlotte. But I don't think. I do agree that is the smart move for Charlotte Flair to kind of take that, allow the title to be taken off of her shoulder.
Well, I think Rhea was the right choice, but I think what Clark meant, and I think he meant that, you didn't make her a threat, so it was kind of just like, it almost felt like it came out of left field, even though the fact, Rhea's a former champion. I think the smart play would have been to build her up as a legit to remind the audience she's not just, Dom's, dominatrix. Like, she's I'm trying to think of another word to use here. She's not just, Dom's, mommy. So
Yeah, that's the one they use.
she's a former women's champion. She was dominant. One of the only, she might be the only one that was NXT women's, NXT UK women's, and WWE women's holder. I think she might be the only one.
She is, because the only other two are Kaylee Ray and Tony Storm, and Kaylee Ray's now Alpha Fire, but hasn't even.
But they never held.
Hasn't even won the NXT belt.
Yeah.
So,
but Rhea's the only one that's done that. So
she's the only one to win She's the only one to win both women's in the UK, and the NXT women.
So and in this case, this would be Rhea winning the SmackDown, which is she never held the SmackDown, right? It was just the Raw one, right?
It was just the Raw.
So in this case,
she
gets the elite air of being the only one to hold both NXT versions and both main thing. Yeah,
she would be the first ever Grand Slam.
Yeah, for women. Yeah, I guess it did. Well, I think they did it with I think they counted the WWE Divas title with Charlotte.
Maybe. Yeah.
So I think.
But then again, she hasn't won the NXT.
Yeah. So I think I think they counted it with Charlotte. But
maybe.
And keep in mind, Charlotte went over Rhea last time. So in a lot of ways, Charlotte will be returning the favor to Rhea.
Yes.
If she does go over, which I think that's a smart move.
I do think.
I mean, Charlotte's so established now that she doesn't really need the title. I get why you put her on it. She's the safe bet, but she really is kind of the person to build other people. Not necessarily Rhea really needs it, but really Rhea kind of does need the kickstart.
A win against Charlotte Flair is going to do wonders for Rhea.
Yeah, and to get back as a legit women's competitor and not just the China of the Judgment Day. No offense against China, I love China,
right.
But just to be a competitor and not just a member of a group I think Rhea needs this, in my opinion.
No, 100%. And I mean, those are kind of the two key points of SmackDown. There's just if you aren't aware of the matches, we got Braun Strowman, Ricochet, Madcap Moss taking on Imperium, and then we have a rematch from the go home show of the SmackDown to the Rumble, and it was Karrion Kross versus Rey Mysterio.
Yeah,
we do know Dominic said he's tagging along to shot with Rhea Ripley or with Mommy, so obviously he's going to be in both the face to face. And odds are he might do something with the Rey Mysterio match. At the end of the day, I really want to give Rey Mysterio his props. He is currently having three storylines right now.
Yeah,
he has his storyline with Karrion Kross, has a storyline with his son, and they just started something with him and Santos Escobar. And I really like Santos Escobar.
Well, and the funny part is, Rey's the one guy that's he has the multiple things. And I remember saying to you, obviously, I believe this was off air, but when they put Rey on SmackDown, and I think I said to you, I know I said it to Clark, they're doing this to stretch this out to get to the Rey Dominic match for Mania.
Yeah.
Putting them on separate brands enables them to stretch this thing out.
Yeah,
I've been saying repeatedly, this is where it was headed. It was heading to Mania. It was very much Kane, Undertaker, 1998 all over again with WrestleMania 14. I won't fight my brother. Then he fights his brother at Mania. This is the same story with Rey and Dominic. I won't fight my son. Now I'm going to kick his ass at WrestleMania. It's the same. It's the same. Now, my question is this Rey's last match? Does Rey retire at Mania? That's the question that I would have. Is this it for Rey?
I guess just to kind of answer that question instead of leaving it as something.
Well, we don't know, but
we don't know. But at the end of the day, it's a thing that it's he probably wants to give the mask. He probably wants to be the one to pass the torch to his son.
That's my point.
I almost think there's a for that to be the last match. There is the uncertainty of, they've just inserted Santos Escobar into something. would Santos Escobar get involved? Are they going to lead up to Ray versus Santos at some point? Which I'd enjoy it. I think it would be almost a better match. I think Dominic and Ray's the better story, but I can't say for certain because of that, because of Santos now being almost a part of it, or just in something with Ray in general.
That would actually be an interesting thing if Dom and Ray are able to make peace. Like after the fight, it's like, or Rhea dumps him. She wins her title, she dumps him. It's a whole thing, and Ray and they reunite. I would love to see Ray, Escobar, and Dom, and maybe some other luchadors. I would love to see Ray reform an LWO. I know they've sort of teased it with Escobar's group using the same font and, making it, appear like it's the same, but Ray's an original LWO member. Reluctantly, by the way, but was the one that refused to take the shirt off once he had it on. And I think they didn't they do like a photo shoot with like Ray and Dom with LWO shirts when they were on good terms?
Probably.
Although I don't think they ever sold the LWO shirt, which I think that was a missed opportunity if they did, because I don't believe they did. But I would love to see Ray with the younger luchadors and essentially grooming them to fill the void when he eventually does retire. I mean, I don't know how many more years Ray has left in him. He's had multiple knee surgeries, although he's still able to go. So I don't know. He can go another 5 to 10 years. I have no idea. But you would think that in the back of his mind, he's thinking about, okay, who's going to be my guy? Who's going to be the one that retires me at some point? Mm-hmm. Especially when he looks at like people like Edge, who came back. Ray's been wrestling longer than Edge. Like Ray is probably the longest one that's been wrestling, other than still wrestling in 2023, other than maybe Jeff Jarrett and Chris Jericho. Like realistically, I think he's
that seems about right.
Probably the last one, or the longest one. Let me recorrect myself. The longest.
Yeah, he's one of the longest.
He's one of the longest.
He has one of the longest careers that's still actively going. I guess that makes a little. More, clears that up a bit.
And he really has not had. He really hasn't had gap years. Like I don't believe Ray really took a year off. I mean, other than like an injury or something like that, like he really didn't take off. Even when he left WWE years ago, he was doing the independents. He did Lucha Underground, and then he eventually returned back to WWE. But like for the most part, the longest gap he was out that was not injured was when WCW closed, and the only reason he stayed out was because he had to otherwise take a buyout from Turner, which would have been pennies on the dollar, or just to sit at home and collect the paycheck until his contract expired for him to go to WWE, which is what happened. He let that contract expire and got all the money he was entitled to, which I do not blame him. Plus, he was able to rest and get his body in better shape so that when he came to WWE, it was, he got all his money. He was in better shape. He had some time off, and he was able to go to the races when he went to WWE. So,
yeah, no. I mean, he's had a very storied career, and I think everyone is going to appreciate Rey Mysterio. A lot of people have the childhoods that have filled with Rey. Oh, I remember that guy. He was the little guy who did the flips, and who was that very big underdog. And I mean, he's almost one of those names. He's one of those names like a John Cena, like a Hulk Hogan, like The Rock. He is a synonymous person that everyone's going to at least know who he is. And his career is that.
He's probably the greatest luchador that's ever lived.
Yes.
At least from what I mean, granted, I don't. It's not like I watch AAA on a regular basis or anything, but just based on hearing what his peers say, I mean, in a lot of ways, he's like a Shawn Michaels, in that how many people were inspired to get into this business because of Ray. Like Ray kind of continued what Shawn started. In the little guy, being taken serious. And when Ray and Shawn were in the ring together, it was phenomenal. I mean, it was the Eddie Guerrero tribute show, I believe, that they faced each other. So I really I hope Ray isn't done at Mania, but it wouldn't shock me either if Dom's his last opponent. Although I do think they would have kind of hyped it up.
That's the thing. I think they would to a degree.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say this is like a continuation of the while Santos is in it.
Mm-hmm.
I guess this is more opinion. If you had the choice, who would he pass the torch? Because I'd rather see him pass the torch to Santos Escobar, because I think he is that next person who can really be that standout star for the WWE in Mexico. I don't know if Dom can.
That's the interesting part. Dom's the better one story-wise, passing to his son.
Yes.
But if you're asking me, who do I think has the brighter future? Who do I think is better in the ring? It's going to be Escobar. But again, Escobar's been doing this a lot longer. But Escobar is a generational talent too. So, so in a lot of ways there's a number of ways you could do it. And again, we're spitballing here. No one said Ray's retiring, but we're just spitballing.
No, we're spitballing.
It's just popping in. But, in that scenario, let's say Dom retires Ray. Okay? You have an instant story if Dom is still the asshole character where Escobar could speak up and go in, your father's legacy, you're spitting on it. That gives Escobar an instant feud with Dom.
It does.
Because you're not respecting the legacy. I could totally see them go that route. And I do think it would be good. And
I think it'd be good. It would be interesting. And I think, but that's the thing. Do you do it as just you're spitting on your legacy, or do we bring Zelina Vega and Rhea Ripley in that? There's a lot of ways we can think about it. There's a mixed tag opportunity. Zelina and Rhea could be fun.
Honestly, I think if you do it, I really think Rhea needs to dump Dom. I could totally see Rhea dumping Dom that he's dead weight. But anyway, I don't want to beat this dead horse.
I think we don't want to beat that dead horse, but I think she does if he loses to Ray, because that's a possibility. As much as it's it's very much a possibility that is what happens.
That wouldn't shock me.
No, well, that's the thing. If he's retiring, it kind of is, but it's well, if they're not billing it as well, this is going to be his last hurrah. No, he could very much win.
Yeah,
and then almost that's where Santos can come in. Okay,
so I guess
just to move on to SmackDown, I have one question.
Okay,
not our final. We'll kind of cut these both in half. Okay. So in of course our Wrestling Republic chats, among the 5 people you'll see, not the 5, but some of the people. There's me, Ben, Saul, and then Clark, and as well as us and Anthony. Yeah. One of the big things on Wednesday night was Tony Khan billed this announcement as an exciting development, and when at the same time, if you haven't heard, apparently Spectrum Cable's now advertising Forbidden Door sometime in June. I think if that was the result, if that was the actual announcement on Wednesday, we were throwing around this thing that's not. I don't think that's an exciting development, and I just want to hear your thoughts on, is AEW All Access an exciting development for the company?
I love backstage stuff. So if it's a legitimate, real look backstage, almost like WWE's done with WWE 24, 365, or what was done with Roads to the Top, where it was kind of the behind the scenes stuff. I love that type of stuff. So for me, I have more interest in that than I do Forbidden Door 2, only because Forbidden Door 1 for me was not what it should have been. And I get there were things outside of their control. but I have more interest in All Access because I like Adam Cole. I've written pieces on Adam. I have a lot of respect for Adam. So I am very interested in the story of his road back to wrestling because we didn't know if he was coming back. I know I've said that. I said that on the show at one point when we didn't know. So I have interest in that. The Forbidden Door, I feel like that and the Ring of Honor show that they did, which were not on their calendar the previous years, kind of hurt them with their build to All Out, which I know that's something that you've mentioned as well. So I would hope that it pans out. But, for me, of the two, All Access is more interesting to me than Forbidden Door 2 going on the calendar because we kind of knew it was coming anyway. But I know we're getting close to the 45.
Yeah,
mark,
we are.
so
That's the thing. I totally agree. At the end of the day, Forbidden Door was already set to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And with that whole statement that Tony Khan said, this is an exciting development.
Mm-hmm.
Forbidden Door to me, and I mean, I'd love to be wrong, is not going to change or develop the company further. It's going to be an event, and AEW is more likely going to be the same company before and after the product. This, as an exciting development, AEW All Access has the potential to do a lot for the company. We have the move of, this could bring a lot of people who like that reality aspect.
Casuals.
This could bring the casuals who want to see this. This could be something that people turn to, and it's not instantly associated with wrestling, and it's more, this is interesting. This could be good. I might want to tune into the other product. In terms of AEW a week ago and AEW, I guess now or when this series officially started, I do think this is a development for the company because it has that opportunity to either grow it or it has an opportunity to change the landscape to a degree. And I think I know I say a lot of shit about Tony Khan, and I'm not the biggest Tony Khan fan. I actually kind of do like this idea. I like the idea of doing a docu-series like this. I like the idea that he kind of hyped it up as an exciting development, and it wasn't a letdown. To me, a lot of people are going to say it was a letdown, and it was like, well, what did you really expect? To me, this actually does develop the company.
Yeah, I think that, the people that are saying they were disappointed by it were probably the people that expected, Jay White to walk out. Or some big signing or him to turn around and go, and I bought WWE, or some insane thing like that. I think that's what they kind of expected. Like I said, All Access has potential. It's something that WWE was doing WWE 24, which I wish they would bring back that in 365. I think they were, I love those type of shows. I do miss the WWE documentaries. Being able to kind of see the people behind the characters. So this has potential. I would presume, and I don't know this, I figure after Adam Cole, I would think they would feature a different person maybe each season, however many episodes they do, each one will be on somebody else. Okay, we're doing Adam Cole and Britt Baker now, this couple. Next month, the next go around, it'll be Moxley and Renee. I'm just spitballing there.
Yeah, you're just spitballing.
I mean, that's a possibility, or maybe it's just a Britt and Adam show. I don't know. I mean, we'll find out. We don't even know the official start date. All they went was March, and I'm like, well, that's next week. So
yeah, exactly.
It was a little vague when they're like March. Okay. So next week
is that next week or
post? Well, because they're saying Adam Cole's going to wrestle the night that it premieres, but I'm like, well, which week in March?
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. One last thing before we go. I know they haven't officially announced this, but the AEW video game Fight Forever, which this could have been the announcement that Tony was leaning towards, but he didn't. I got a notice today because I do have the game on pre-order that I got a notice from the retailer that said, hey, we have a release date. they put March 31st as the release date. I don't know if that's going to hold, but considering the fact that the retailer is a pretty big retailer and up to this point was just to be determined, I think this, for anybody that wants to know, that sounds like a really good thing if you wanted this game. So that I just wanted to kind of let that out there. I don't know if that's breaking news. I don't. If you take it however you want to take it.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And then I know. I guess we got a couple minutes. We can kind of say this. We might go a couple minutes over just due to the circumstances. Mm-hmm. Tonight is not only SmackDown. We have Impact has one of their monthly shows. We have Impact No Surrender. Mm-hmm. No Surrender. At the end of the day, I kind of want to know your thoughts. I want to know what you're most looking forward to, Anthony.
That's the thing, and I know I had this conversation with Soul on here, whether or not what was worth money, Honor Club or Impact Plus. For me, Impact is they give you the monthly pay-per-views, and most of their shows are actually pretty solid. I know people don't give it credit because it's Impact and they have such a damaged brand. For me, I like the Masha and Mickie James match. I think that's considering Hard to Kill, what the performance Mickie was able to do with Jordynne Grace, and Masha's kind of being built up. I don't know if Masha takes the belt tonight or if they drag that out to the a bigger pay-per-view, which will be Rebellion, I think in April.
That's the next one. Yes.
I assume it may go to there to have her lose on a bigger pay-per-view, maybe. I think Rich Swann and Josh should be a decent match. I'm not overly excited about that one, but I think it could be a good match. I know Motor City Machine Guns and Kushida are taking on a version of the Bullet Club. That could be pretty decent. So, I mean, there's enough on this card, and again, getting it included for $7.99 for the month, I mean, you can get it on Fight, I believe, for $9.99. I think it's $9.99 if you buy it, straight without the Impact Plus. But I don't think you're gonna get a bad wrestling show out of it. And for me, I'll be watching SmackDown probably tomorrow. Same thing with Rampage, because I'll be watching a Impact show tonight. So that's what I will be watching.
100%. Yeah. We are actually in the countdown to No Surrender as well right now. So
yes,
at the end of the day, it does start at the same time as SmackDown.
Yes.
Some places you can have the late airing of SmackDown. I assume that's going to be what I do after. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, we have No Surrender coming up. I like that you touched upon it. I think Mickie James had a phenomenal performance at Hard to Kill as well. And I think that I am very excited because Josh Alexander is someone who's in the position of he's the longest reigning Impact World Champion of all time. Mm-hmm. And right now, I don't know if Impact has the right person to dethrone him. I don't know if that's a Steve Macklin. I don't know who. And I like that idea. I don't think it's going to be Rich Swann, but I like the fact that they have the opportunity to go, well, this could go on a little longer. And this is the same thing for Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns' championship reign has to end to someone who is going to make a name for himself, or who is going to build. And this is the same thing for Josh Alexander. Josh Alexander took the company on his back for the last, I want to say, year plus.
Yeah.
Especially with the X Division Championship. Yeah. He was the one to beat Christian Cage. And then he ended up beating Moose once again for it.
Yeah.
This is his long reign. I don't know if he loses it at the same pay-per-view he won it. But at the end of the day, I'm excited to see who beats him for the title. I'm excited to see where Impact goes with it. I don't know if they have the right person. I'm a big believer in Steve Macklin. I could even see Steve Macklin be the one to dethrone Trey Miguel because they had the history and they were killer last year together.
Yep.
At the end of the day, this is the Wrestling Republic Daily Broadcast. Like, comment, and subscribe. We got the website. We got, for news, not so much news. We got some reviews. We got some scouting showcase. We got a lot of things. We got a lot of podcasts. We got the Soul Sessions, Republic Ramble, sold separately coming soon. We have the Lions of the Republic. We also have a feature MLW interview coming out with someone from the news team. we got a lot of stuff going. We're coming to Mania. We'll see you at Mania. At the end of the day, this is Kobe Anzowski and Anthony Ricciardi, and take care.